But one of the things that got very little attention yet last week, and should have got a lot more, is that democracy in Wellington, which you'd sort of expect, seems to be under threat. An investigator into 5 Wellington city councillors has found that all 5 breached their code of conduct policy. This is Wellington's code of conduct policy. The probe was launched in relation to the councillors' actions following a publicly excluded briefing regarding the future of the Courtenay Place Reading Cinema earlier this year and the potential for Wellington ratepayers to be up for tens, if not tens of millions of extra expenditure that hasn't been budgeted for. It found that councillors Diane Calvert, Nicola Young, Iona Pannett, hardly a centre-right politician, Ray Chung and Tony Randle were in breach of the code, with some of them making more than one breach. All right, what happens next? Where they're going to go with this one? Should the public have a right to know or not when they are in the pokey for tens of millions of dollars? We're joined by one of the guilty who'll soon be making his way to the tumbrils, and I hope it happens after Christmas so he can join one last fifth of season with us. Councillor Tony Randle joins us. Tony, how are you? Condemned man, ate a hearty breakfast, all that sort of stuff?
Absolutely. Yes, I feel so condemned by this Kangaroo Court. My goodness me.
Can I ask, first of all, what you're meant to have been guilty of?
Well, after having this highly paid lawyer go through...
It's Linda Clark, isn't it? The former television... The former TVNZ reporter.
Yes, and the investigation was to find out who leaked the details of the deal. And the investigation didn't find anyone leaked the details of the deal. And so, grasping at straws, they've sort of made up some stuff around comments after the deal, and also comments that apparently include and also comments saying that I bring the council into disrepute and criticising some staff. I mean, yeah, very, very thin stuff.
No, I've got no time for Linda Clark. She's a Liberal lefty from way back, always has been. And I guess she was handpicked by the Wellington City Council for that potentially predetermined outcome, was she?
Well, of course, and one of the things that's worth noting is that Linda Clark knows Tory quite well. Apparently she's even had her over for dinner. And, you know, that was certainly something that we had to point out to her. She didn't mention that in her draft report, but it sort of appeared a little bit in the final report. Where she claims, no, she's still neutral, but there's no way that this stuff in here is neutral. I mean, they're really sort of making up facts, and there's errors in the report, errors of fact, there's errors of judgment as to what was said, and attributing really motives to stuff that's not there.
Now, it's really quite serious, because now you've been found guilty, the Wellington City Council can, by a majority, actually strip you from attendance or they can't stop you being a councillor, but it can actually stop you being a committee member and having a say in those processes, can't they?
Yes, they can, but I'm pretty certain this will not happen. In fact, the Mayor's already announced that what we're going to do is have a bit of retraining. Apparently, it's the punishment on Lagoima, and we're going to have some sort of kumbaya, all get together, make up sort of session, which I'm not sure how that's going to work either. But I totally refute that I breached any of the code of conduct things. I was just doing my job, just pointing out.
Let me get this right. So and this is really important for everybody to understand, because a whole bunch of pencil neck bureaucrats all over the country are trying to have a go at stopping any criticism of them by elected members. Now, this is a common refrain throughout New Zealand local government. In this particular case, because you criticised staff individually, or you criticised a staff decision, or you just said staff, you were found to have brought the council into disrepute?
Well, I didn't criticise staff. It was the claim that some of the councillors did criticise staff. Aren't they
allowed to?
Not direct. Well, it's a fine line between criticising, bad advice and bad information from staff. I mean, I did do that through the speed management plan, and that didn't cause a code of conduct. No, I tell you what, the post, Ina Pennant put it pretty well. I'm just going to read this quick thing from her thing. In her correspondence with Clark, Pennant wrote that both the mayor and the deputy mayor had told her she was not the focus of the review and was simply collateral damage, as they tried to, and this is what they said, remedy the behaviour of her colleagues on council. And that's what was trying to happen. They're trying to remedy our behaviour, as if what we're doing is wrong. And all we're doing is saying, we've got no money. What the hell are we doing, spending, borrowing money to go and prop up a multinational corporation? We need to fix the pipes. We've got other priorities. And that's all I was saying. All I was saying is this was a bad decision at the time, and it was the wrong decision. It was wrong to even make this decision.
Sorry, now just to bring a bit of analysis though for people who don't live in Wellington, for people who've actually ever been to Wellington, they used to have a very nice cinema complex down in Courtney Place. It was lovely, in actual fact, utilised a lot, real hubbub, and they're missing it. It got damaged by the earthquake. It's owned by, as you say, an international film distribution type network.
Yep.
And my understanding is they're coming to the council to say, can you help us repair these buildings or find a replacement? What's the story?
Essentially, I can't talk too much about the exact deal, but essentially they were going to, in net terms, loan them ratepayer money, and because ratepayers borrowed a much lower rate, they're essentially getting a subsidy of some millions of dollars because we can borrow money more cheaply. Because ratepayers are behind it. Ratepayers have to pay any debt that we take on, and so this was essentially a deal which was to the great advantage of the
Reading Cinemas
chain,
Reading
Cinemas, and that's what the report says, and that outlines. The investigation report says this is what was discussed, and at the time I simply said, if the public knew what we were deciding the day after we had found out we need to find up to another $147 million for our overrun town hall project, then they would be incandescent. And that's apparently breaches the code of conduct. But I know that people are really angry at this.
Listen, I know the Bill of Rights seems to be certainly put aside during the COVID lockdown, but I would have thought, just on the basis that you are an elected member and a member of, of the human race, or at least of New Zealand citizen, that you have the opportunity to have freedom of speech and freedom of thought. And I would have thought that's even more important once you're an elected member of a Wellington City Council. Have those views or those particular rights that the law gives you, Tony, been suspended once you got elected?
Well, I don't recognise that they've been suspended, even if the mayor does. The key thing is that I actually am a big supporter of confidential information. Okay, and I never at the time actually released any information about the deal. All I said is we shouldn't be doing this deal. And I think that's a valid thing to say because it was flagged to be released. Actually, details are supposed to have been released by the 30th of November, although that hasn't obviously happened. The
mayor's been distracted.
Well, that's true. That's true. There's been a fair bit of other events which go to the reputation of the city as well. But
good point. Good point. Very good point. No, it's a fair point, Tony. Fair point.
Yeah. Well, and even at the time, much as there were newspaper reports about, for example, Councillor Pennant, Councillor Young commenting into the media. So was the mayor. The mayor was commented in the media literally the day after, but she wasn't subject to the code of conduct complaints, and I think that's really notable too. They picked on the ones that they wanted to pick on, and have ignored other stuff. Other councillors have also breached the same confidentiality about this deal.
Yes, but
And
I guess, so
I
in essence, Tony, you've got a lefty Liberal council run by a lefty Liberal Green mayor and leadership team there trying to quash dissent from people it regards as conservative or centre-right politicians because they just want to quash dissent. I mean, you've got a sort of a totalitarian regime in essence.
Yeah, and all we're pointing out is we haven't got any money. Why are you spending money like water? And they continue to do so. I don't know how. I mean, we're literally running out of debt headroom to actually borrow for key stuff at the moment, and it's just not working.